Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to the next session of your social science children. In this session, we are going to start with a new lesson in history. And the lesson is all about the new empires and kingdoms. So, we have seen about Ashoka, Chandragupta Maurya, the grandfather of Ashoka, Chandragupta Maurya, and then we have seen about Bindusara and then about Ashoka. How did he expanded his kingdom throughout the country? We have seen that. We have seen about the Battle of Kalinga, and after all these wars, Ashoka realized that war is not the ultimate thing a human being needs. And he started following the policy of Buddhism. So that is where he realized that war should not be the solution, and then he started following ahimsa, right? All these things we have seen. So now we are going to see after this Mauryan Empire, after Ashoka, what happened? Who are the kings who ruled our country? So that is what we are going to see in this lesson. But before going to the lesson, we should have some short introduction about the various groups of people who occupied our country. Okay, so when this Mauryan Empire started falling, yes, the decline of Mauryan Empire, after that many groups or many tribal groups invaded our country. So we are going to first see about that. So taking advantage of the declining power of the Mauryan Empire, several foreign tribes invaded north and northwestern India. So Mauryan Empire's power started declining after Ashoka. So after that, what happened? Many foreign tribes, they started entering our country through north and northwestern part. So some of the important tribes among these are the Indo-Greeks, the Sakhas, the Kushans and the Parthiyans. Okay, so we are going to see about these four groups alone, because these people were playing a very important role in the kingdom, right? So some of them went on to establish empires that left lasting impressions on various aspects of the country. So these four important groups, okay, why are we reading about these four? Because they have created some impact, some impression on the history of our country. So now, first thing we are going to see about is Indo-Greek Kingdom. Okay, so Indo-Greek Kingdom, we are going to see about that first. We have seen that Alexander came up to river Beas. Yes, Alexander belongs to Greece, and he occupied the places up to the river Beas. We have seen that, and these people were the officers in charge, that is the governors left over by Alexander to take care of his territories. Okay, so these people were officers. And what happened after a period of time, after many years, they were in India. So they settled in India completely, and after that they had families here and they had their own children here. So those group of people we call as Indo-Greek. Yes, a combination of Indian and Greek. So that is Indo-Greek. We are going to see about that. They were mostly settled in this Bactria. It is not bacteria, it is Bactria, located in Afghanistan, right? So now, we learnt about Alexander's invasion in previous chapter. When he went back, he left behind the generals to manage the conquered regions. So wherever the places he had conquered, okay, under his territory, the places under his control. Yes, we call it as territories, right? So all those places were taken care by the generals left by Alexander. And many of these generals, they settled in India. Over a period of time, this led to the birth of the group of people called the Indo-Greeks. Okay, so the Greek people settled in India, they gave birth to Indo-Greeks. They were mostly based in Bactria, Afghanistan. So this place Bactria is located in Afghanistan. So they were mainly settled in that place. They were one among the first groups who crossed the Hindu Kush and settled in various parts of northern and northwestern India. So these people were, see, very few groups crossed this Hindu Kush. Hindu Kush is nothing but a mountain in Central Asia. Okay? Mountain range in Central Asia. So that is what we call it as Hindu Kush. So very few group alone came crossing this Hindu Kush mountains and they have entered India. So these people were one such group. Okay? And Milinda or Menander was one of the most popular Indo-Greek kings. So each and every group that entered India had a very significant king, one important king among them. So we are seeing as Milinda or Menander. He was called as Menander or Milinda. So he was one of the most popular Indo-Greek kings and the capital was Sakala or Sialkot. Right? Sialkot was the capital for these Indo-Greeks. And the influence of the Indo-Greeks is most evident in a new form of art called as Gandhara school of art. So these people introduced a new art form to our country and that is called as Gandhara form of art. So that is how these Indo-Greeks have created impact in our country. Right? So now we are going to see about Scythian kingdom. Yes, the Sakhas or the Scythians. The Sakhas or the Scythians. Right? So let us see about whom they were and what did they do. So here you could see this place completely covered is Scythian kingdom. So here the Sakhas, who were also called as Scythians, were nomadic tribes from Central Asia. So what is meant by nomadic tribes? Nomad means people who move around. People who move around, we call them as nomads. Hope you remember this word from your old Stone Age lesson, right? So these people were the nomadic tribes and they have come from Central Asia, right? They defeated the Indo-Greeks and settled down in Mathura and Taxila. So these people fought against Indo-Greeks. Okay, these Sakhas fought against Indo-Greeks who first occupied after Ashoka's empire. So they fought against these Indo-Greeks and then they started to settle down in Mathura and Taxila. Much about the Sakhas can be known from the Mahabhashya, the Puranas, the Junagadh inscriptions and numerous coins. So we have come to know about these Sakhas through these various literatures, literary works, Mahabhashya, the various Puranas and the Junagadh inscriptions and also the varieties of coins they have issued. So here you could see Mathura and Taxila being located in our country. Yes, hope you could see that. Mathura and Taxila. So these two were the important places where these Sakhas started to settle. Right. Now, this kingdom was divided into provinces. So the Sakha, the entire kingdom was divided into small divisions and that was called as province, and each province was ruled by a governor. Okay, so each and every province had a head and that person was the governor and he was called as satrap. Okay, the most famous Sakha ruler was Rudradaman. So Rudradaman was the famous Sakha ruler. Now moving on to Paktiyan Empire. Yes, so here you could see the highlighted area belongs to Paktiyan Empire. So the Parthians came from Iran and ruled over a small part of North India in 1st century CE. So this period is Common Era, right? So we have seen a lot about BCE and now we have entered CE. So these Parthians came from Iran to our country and they ruled over a very small area. Okay, so Gonda Ferres was the most famous of their king. Okay, so the famous king of this Parthians is Gonda Ferres. Now we are moving on to Kushan Empire. So here you could see this highlighted part belongs to Kushan Empire. Here the Kushans entered India from Afghanistan. So as we know that Afghanistan is our neighboring country, from there these Kushans entered our country. They defeated the Sakhas and the Parthians and they settled down in Kashmir. So first they fought against Sakhas and also Parthians and they started settling down in the place of Kashmir. And the famous king of this Kushans is Kanishka. Okay, Kanishka is the famous king among this Kushan rulers. And he was capable general who fought many battles. So he has fought against many kings and he has successfully won those battles. And he expanded his empire from Turfan in China to Pataliputra. Okay, so he established his empire from China up to this Pataliputra. So he was a very efficient ruler and the main capital for his empire, see he had 3 capitals. One was the main capital and the other 2 capitals were also there. Apart from the main capital, he had 2 more capitals. So the main capital was Purusapura, which is also called as Peshawar, right? And then Kapisa and Mathura functioned as the other 2 capitals. So the 3 capitals of this Kushans, first one, the main capital was Purusapura, which is also called as Peshawar, and the other 2 capitals were Kapisa and Mathura. And one of the greatest achievements of Kanishka was to control the trade carried over the Silk Route. So what is this Silk Route? So in olden days, right, China was the only manufacturer of silk. So they had a unique method, a very soft, very fluffy, very comfortable cloth. Yes, silk, we know that. So they were manufacturing this. They maintained the secrecy of manufacturing this silk. Okay, so they did not tell the secret on how they manufactured this silk to any other countries. So what happened? People whoever wanted to buy this silk, okay, they started coming over various places to China and they started trading with China for this silk products. So the places which contacted China or which had a commercial trade contact with China for these silk products were all mapped together and the route through which they pass, yes, that was called as Silk Route. Okay. So what he did, he controlled, he took steps to control this Silk Route trade, because only China was flourishing and the other countries' trade were much affected because of this. So that is where he wanted to impose some restrictions on that. So that is where he started controlling this Silk Route and he imposed taxes on traders who used this Silk Route. So whoever was using this route, the roadway, okay, the Silk Road, yes, so that those people were imposed tax by this king, and this money was used to ensure safety along the road. So even after collecting tax from the traders, what he did, this Kanishka, he spent that money for ensuring safety on the roads, because the traveled road was in between the mountains. They had to travel through the mountains also. So on that case, he just wanted to make sure that the people travel safely. He also issued gold coins for the ease of transactions and provided the traders access to ports. So port is the main place where the sea trade can take place. So he also gave access for the traders. Yes, they were given permission to use the ports. And also for the easiness of the transactions and the trade activities, he issued golden coins. And he also did a lot for the spread of Buddhism. So he was also the follower of Buddhism, and he did a lot of activities for spreading this Buddhism. So these four important groups belonged to our country, which means they are foreigners who invaded our country and they started ruling our country, and that has created a great impact in the history of our country, right? So after this, what happened? That is what we are going to see now. And now we are going to see about Gupta Empire, and it is said to be the golden age of India. So by the end of the lesson, we will understand why this Gupta Empire is called as the golden age of India. So first let us understand about this Gupta Empire. So by the 4th century CE, okay. So by the end of 4th century, what happened? The hold of the Kushans and the Sakhas on North India started weakening. So their power started to reduce. So they were becoming weak empires. So by that time, many new kingdoms started to emerge. Emerge means to come up new. Okay, so many new kingdoms started to come. Then one of the most powerful of these was the one which was established by the Guptas. So many new kingdoms came up in our country. Out of that, a very powerful one was this Guptas. Okay, so the Gupta dynasty ruled India for almost 200 years, from the 4th to 6th century CE. So do you notice this? That now we are mentioning it as 4th to 6th century because it is common era. So we start from one and we come forward. But before this, all our previous lessons, we have been counting it in the backwards because that was before common era. Okay. So this Gupta dynasty was there in our country for almost 200 years. And we know about this age through various sources. So we have got to know about this Gupta period through various sources. It could be an Indian source or it could even be a foreign source. Okay. So the accounts of travelers like Paktiyan from China throw light on the life and times of that period. So Paktiyan was the important traveler from China who visited our country during this Gupta's period. Then among Indian sources, Charitas and Prashastis are very important, right? So apart from the foreign travelers' literary source, we also have our own literary sources called Charitas and Prashastis. Okay, so from that also we have got to know about the Gupta period, which we are going to see in our further coming sessions. Thank you. To receive our online lessons, please press the subscribe button and you will receive the latest updates. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.